refine the effect to where you get the thing in clearly controllable, replicable conditions. So, you know, I would be very encouraging that that type of effort and the funds to do that and the necessary team to support the effort, you know, would be a very worthwhile scientific endeavor, I think, particularly in view of the tests that have been done by the Max Planck Institute, and I'd like to see more of those done.
Okay. Tom, you were going to find something. Did you find an hotel that might be important? Let's see.
California in the fall on this same technology as a favor to George, since he was not going to this meeting of the Minds conference out there. And I was using the same literature, the Ferris Technology press release literature on the lift and disruption system. So essentially I had access to more slides and I showed the same videotape that you saw, but overall you've seen pretty much everything that is known to date on this technology, except for, of course, the swinging telephone poles that they forgot to tell you about, and some of the other unexplained phenomenon that certainly is, to this day, still unusual. I don't know if you saw in the videotape the rainbow color effect of the light. It does have a visual light effect as well, and it's localized to a particular region. So there is one videotape that George had where you can see a series of very bright colors that appear in space for no other reason than the high DC and AC field. On the diagram, I should correct, the diagram does include at least 1 or 2 Van de Graaff generators. So he's applying a very high DC field as well as the Tesla coil AC field on top of that. So Andrew, did you catch that? There definitely is a Van de Graaff generator in this region where the Hutchison effect is created. But beyond that, as far as explaining it, we're seeing the emergence of a new technology, and I've heard people from time to time criticize the randomness and the just disruption and very uncontrollability of the experiment. But I really need to emphasize, and I do this to every group I talk to about this, that each new technology, when it emerges, just like the Wright brothers airplane, will crash several times and do uncontrollable things, but eventually we'll have laws and physical equations to explain exactly how to control this. And it could be a very phenomenal and unusual new technology we're seeing right now.
Tom, I'd like to add one other thing. If you look at the setup of the experiments and compare that to the pumped phase conjugate mirror concept in optics, in nonlinear optics, you can also characterize the experimental setup as a setup to do certainly low frequency to mid frequency and up in the multi-megahertz region, covering that region and down into, right down to zero. You're looking at something that's set up to create pump waves. And if there's any nonlinearity in the material at all, then you're going to have the same kind of thing you get in nonlinear optical pumping, which means you're looking at phase conjugation and the creation, in multi-wave mixing, full-wave mixing, you're looking at the creation of time-reversed waves. That'll be significant in what I'll be giving later.
Any questions on the floor? That could be resolved before we go directly to the... any questions from the floor before we go directly to the paper by Tom Bearden?
Andrew, I'd like to make some comments. I've talked to Hutchison in Vancouver to try to support him and encourage him both scientifically and psychologically, and I have a colleague in Vancouver who's going to try to help him. The fire department closed down his operation because of the protests of the neighbors. He's been forbidden, and the fire department put his plant under lock and key. He's not allowed access to his equipment. He also told me that he used a radioactive